Nothing smart to say today. Just doing your basic retweets. John, I feel like I haven't talked to you in a week.
That's probably a good thing, right?
Well,
probably a good, smart thing.
All right.
Almost there?
All set.
All right. Let me see what. See, the tweet just went out a minute ago. John's writing a novel, apparently.
Hi, are you bored? Want to watch something to make you feel like your current boredom is less boring?
Come join us. All right. Are we ready? We ready to go? Oh, yeah, feedback from somebody now.
Oh, I thought you meant like good feedback. You're talking about audio feedback.
Hey, my mic were muted.
Are you listening to the stream in another tab that you're not aware
Sure
of?
he is.
That's what I do all the time.
I don't have anything open. Come on.
But you're still hearing
I think
feedback?
let me see.
It's sympathetic feedback.
It's fine. You want to get us going? Are we ready?
Yes.
I feel like we're ready.
1, 2, 1, 2. Coming off the top, y'all know how we do. Listen, I'ma drop a freestyle you can cherish. I'ma send a shout out to the host named Eric. Yo, he's never on some average shit. You know, Eric, he stays loud and passionate. I'm about to break it down for y'all with the clever song. Yo, shout the host named Thomas, cause he's never wrong. Yo, shout to John. You know that he's smart and quiet, unlike my freestyles, which cause a riot. I'm about to do it like this, cause the people love me. Shouts out to PHP the Ugly. It's called ugly cause it's not professional, but I'm about to come through and bless it with style. So let's do it when I'm spitting. I perfume the room. Yo, the segment of the show is called Doom and Gloom. That came from Thomas. Yeah, can nobody go beyond this? I get the mic and then I'm about to keep it like a promise. Yeah, and y'all know we fill them up with anguish. We talking about the PHP, the programming language. About to break it down, no exaggeration. What do y'all do for a living? Web applications. Okay, I can dig it. My words spray tight. They getting together on the Thursday nights. Yeah, when it comes to rhyming, you can call me the new dude. I spew true lyrics while y'all broadcast on YouTube. So let's get it. You know my lyrics are major. All up in the comments, they got plenty of haters, but they doing what they doing. Keep it ugly. We ending every show with the saying it's lovely. Let's go. Hey, shout out to y'all. Peace to the whole squad, man. Hope your channel is doing real well on YouTube.
Yeah, I was debating whether I should even worry about that. I like it though. It's cool. It's different. Okay, I was gonna jump right into the show there, but
yeah, go for it.
You tripped me up. Okay, you're listening to episode 200.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do?
How
about if I? Is that any better?
No. Wait, back up and talk.
Okay. What would you like me to say? Is that any better?
Actually better. A little better.
Tap.
Oh.
How about that? Is that better?
Actually correct.
That's humongously better.
I hate Skype with a passion.
So what does that mean about
Oh my
Zencaster?
No, it's not Zencaster. Or maybe it is. You had to switch your sound setting, didn't you?
Yes. But
That's fucking Skype, man.
Skype said the proper thing, but in my actual sound settings, it switched on me. That is annoying.
Are we just?
And I don't know.
Are we gonna cross our
I don't know
fingers
what-
on Zencaster?
It'll be the thing as Zencaster, and we'll just deal with it. I'll clean up as much as I can. We spent too much time on the topic already. Let's move on.
We'll start with
How would
or stock market hijacks.
How about our weeks? Why do we gotta jump right into news?
Thomas just wants to jump right into the cards, man. Every week he's like,
Abilities. So
Okay, well, tell us about your week then. We'll start there.
yeah.
I will be 40 years old.
What? Happy birthday.
There's so much going on. Security stuff, trying to learn how the stock market works as like a crash, which became obvious this week.
I kept seeing so many like memes and tweets and things being said, but I didn't know what was going on
Yeah.
until I had a friend on Facebook who wrote a very eloquent post about it, like had good feedback in his comments and everything. So I kind of learned what was going on.
Yeah, so exactly.
Thomas was that friend.
Oh yeah.
Well, then somebody can explain it to me because I try to read up on it and I'm like, I don't know. Reddit's involved. They I can't tell if they hyped up a price or dumped a price or what happened.
They didn't
there.
touch the price. Fascinatingly enough.
All right, well, explain it. What happened?
Are we doing that or are we doing security vulnerabilities? Now I'm confused.
Well, let's do like you said. Let's do the weeks first. That's all the stuff I'll get into for this. That's my week involved a lot of that stuff, a lot of that research, and a snow day, which was nice.
Oh yeah, because you have snow.
How about you guys?
We had snow. We had
I
hail.
know.
You woke up one morning and we had hail all on the ground with it, which is basically snow for us. It was crazy.
It's supposed to be really bad tonight too. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine the people to the north of us in California just being swamped.
And if you don't know California, or at least urban California drivers, they don't know how to deal with.
Yeah. It could be a blizzard. They drive the same. They're horrible.
Road dirt and oil builds up, and when it's just terrible. So
Well, luckily most of us don't have to move around currently, so no big deal.
that's true.
The biggest issue I have with it right now is having a brand new puppy and not being able to get it to go outside.
Tell
You puppy.
the puppy.
Not much to tell. It was a rescue from Baja Dog Rescue. I guess they rescue dogs off the streets down in Mexico and brought it up here. It's about 4 months old. We weren't looking for a puppy. My wife was more looking for that 1 to 2 housebroken age, but this one popped up, and next thing you know, we have a dog.
Yeah, now you get the potty train all over again.
Oh my gosh, this dog, for being 3.5, 4 months old, has only had a couple of accidents inside so far.
Good.
Has slept through the night. You know, we put it in the crate at night, and outside of a little whimpering for the first couple of minutes, has slept all night. It's been.
Sounds like Thomas when he crashes.
Oh
your
yeah.
place. Yeah.
I've been shocked, so I'm not complaining at all. my biggest complaint is the fact that it's a puppy and like has puppy sharp teeth and nipping and
Oh yeah.
like, and having two small kids that don't understand that the dog thinks he's playing, so he's not trying to hurt you.
I'll tell you what, that doesn't go away with age. The teenagers still don't understand that the dog is not 100% as sentient as they are.
So yeah, that's my biggest issue with the rain. How was your week, Eric? Yes,
Well, since we're talking about dogs, I shared on Twitter, so this is no big secret, but my dog was officially diagnosed yesterday with degenerative myelopathy, DM, which is essentially the dog's version of Lou Gehrig's disease. So Yaz, the office manager, is slowly losing abilities in his body, and it's a progressive thing. But the good news is, we had decided, we were pretty sure that's what he was going to have. They thought it was hip dysplasia for years. We tried to do different things, but recently his health deteriorated pretty quickly, and so we were pretty sure what we were looking at. So even though we hadn't gotten the official word yet, we got a wheelchair for him last weekend, and we've been going out every day, and he's getting so good with his wheelchair now. He actually had his first day where he seemed like he enjoyed his time at the park. So
that's good. Good to hear.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been something. I mean, it's not what I expected to have to deal with a dog, but it's part of the family now, and you don't really always get to pick that stuff. So yeah, well, that's kind of our life now. So you're talking about the rain. I'm not looking forward to the rain because he's got to go to the park regardless. Like, it's just how he is. So I will be at the park and with my dog in his wheelchair. I'm getting a lot of notifications that people are seeing lag, by the way, guys. Just kind of let you know that. I don't know if there's anything you can do about that, Thomas. But yes, there is lag being reported. Yeah. So, anyways, besides that, as far as PHP goes, I've been almost fully into Livewire this week. Tried to pull Thomas over to the dark side today. He wasn't biting. He wasn't even interested in looking around.
Really?
I was showing him some code. Well, I was trying to fix a problem. I'm like, I think this might be Livewire related, but can you just give me a sanity check on some code I'm doing, because it should be downloading. It should be generating a download file, and there's some things to do in Livewire for that, but for the most part, Livewire just hands the stuff off to Laravel. So there's not a lot of difference between how Livewire generates a download and how Laravel generates a download. And of course, it was totally my bad. It was, I had abstracted away a little too far and had forgotten to return on one of the methods. And, so it was totally not a Livewire thing, totally not a Laravel thing. But that was it. Thomas didn't care. He didn't care to look at any of the Livewire stuff. I had it all set up. I wanted to show him all my components. I'm like, look, man, it's doing this and it's doing this, and it's the page isn't even refreshing, and it's this is happening and that's happening. No, he didn't care. He had better things to do. So, but he was there for me.
The method you didn't have a return statement in, did you have a return type hint on it?
No.
That would have protected you, because you would have seen an error in that case versus this weird case that you were in. It's one reason I really enjoy having type hints on my return statement.
So the issue with that, and maybe you can enlighten me how to resolve it. So the method that didn't have the return type on it was an export method, right? So what was happening in the code is there were several different exports you could do. Some would generate files, others would just generate like a text view of the data on the screen. So Livewire was firing this export method, and then based on the format that was being passed to it, it was calling other methods. So in the case of a download file, it was saying, hey, export to CSV, and then return that. But it's not always returning a Symphony response to download. Sometimes it's just returning a text version of the data, but it's still on the screen.
Yeah, I guess I would have to see the actual method in that case to figure out how to. So it was the actual method in your controller that was not returning?
Right. So like you said, that export method was handing off to another method. That other method was returning, but I had forgotten to tell the export method to actually return back to the client. So
yeah,
that's where
you have different return types. That is resolved in 8 because you can have union types, but I guess until then you're SOL.
Yeah, kind of.
Or
it was,
or you get hokey and you have to abstract away a return type and then handle that outside of that, but that doesn't work so well when it comes to Laravel.
I don't think that's a terrible idea. I don't think that's a terrible idea. I might think about that. But it was so funny. I'd gotten so laser focused on, I was exporting the data wrong. Like I was creating this file incorrectly, that I was just in that method. I'm like, I didn't even bother to look back up at the other method. And I'm like, what is wrong? Yeah, I was
we actually did.
Debug. And that's what was driving me nuts. I'm like, I don't understand it. Everything is right here. Everything looks right, and then the request just disappears. I don't know where it goes, and I had forgotten that it was actually being called by another method. So
surprised you didn't try to get me on the call there. Although you got
I would have. Yeah, I got to figure it out.
I know.
You're a busy guy, man.
All in all, I was unimpressed.
You didn't even look at any of it. You're insane. All that functionality you saw on that page, not one line. The only line of JavaScript in that page is some Alpine JS I did for the drop down of the view type. That's the only JavaScript in that page. Everything is done through Livewire. You cannot tell me that doesn't look cool.
I like that you're begging. You're begging to get access to the videos from Caleb, and it's like we've talked about it on the show so much. He should be like, no, please take the videes. You shouldn't be begging him. He should be begging you.
Oh,
yeah, he should be sponsoring us.
I could see that he had videos on it. I'm like, I know this is a video I wanted. And John, you might even appreciate the fact that the videos I was watching today was how to do testing with Livewire. So it was all like he was doing some test-driven development with Livewire. I'm like, okay, I kind of get that. I can kind of do that. I think, pretty sure. But
it should do that. Yes.
It's man. I'm gonna go.
If you had the test, you probably would have caught that return statement sooner.
Probably.
So
that's my thing. I'm all in on Livewire. If you didn't know that already, you guys are insane for not embracing it with me, but that's fine. I'll keep it to myself. I'm good with it.
I would embrace it if I could use it, but I can't use it. So,
you mentioned PHP 8. I'm doing a migration now for our system to move to PHP 8. And I decided I'd look at the entire list of backward compatible breaks. And, oh boy, it's like a history lesson in PHP. It's just a travel through the ages of how we used to do things.
Because they finally removed a lot of that garbage.
Yeah, all the stuff that was deprecated for like 10 years was finally removed. like methods with the same name as the class are no longer interpreted as constructors. Removed ability.
If I don't think people were doing that in 7, were they? I didn't even know that still
It was
worked.
deprecated in
crap,
7.
I've got code that. Crap, I still have code that might be like that.
So you have to think about the history of how we moved through versions. Is that all the bad stuff in 5 was deprecated in 7.
To be fair, that was a bad thing from 4.
Well, but wasn't deprecated yet. So all the bad stuff that wasn't yet deprecated in 5 made it into 7, and then 8 is the first time the stuff that's bad in 5 is actually being removed. Removed ability to call non-static methods statically.
that one's gonna bite me a lot.
Oh, is that something you did?
The legacy code base that I work in mainly, yes, it's done way too much.
Here's another one that'll bite you: is access to undefined constants now always results in an error exception. Previously, if you tried to access an undefined constant, it would just return the string name of the constant. Also, to go along with that, constants now have to be capitalized. They can't have random lowercase characters in them.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a deprecated thing.
Removed the each function, now recommending to use for each constructor. Removed ability to unbind this from closures that were created from a method. I don't even know how you would do that.
Neither do I, actually.
Removed ability to use array key exists with objects. Only works on arrays now.
Interesting. So how long did it take you? Have you finished it, and how long has it taken you so far to update your code base?
Updating the code base took a half an hour.
That's not bad.
It wasn't bad at all. Everything else seems like it's working correctly. I don't see any issues.
How did you find all the things you needed to change?
I upgraded the version I was running and then tried to open the page.
So
You didn't look at your
So
log
that-
files?
that's
with
not an
deprecations?
that's what I was gonna say. Is that an extensive test? Like, are you testing all the various pages of your application?
Our application is pretty simple in the sense that I can just click through it, and if I can click through it, then it's done. There's not a lot of advanced features as far as user input or anything like that. We have a payment system and a browsing system, and that's it. So, and reading through the backwards compatible stuff, like I said, it was a time warp. It was stuff that I haven't done in forever.
Yeah.
You'll like this one.
For those that are listening, I like Eric's suggestion. Make sure you have deprecated warnings turned on in your error log, and check that for deprecations.
Mm-hmm.
Do that in production so you can catch them all, fix them while you're still on 7. Because if it's deprecated, it means there's a new way to do it. Make sure your deprecation log is clear for some time before upgrading to 8.
The @ operator will no longer silence fatal errors.
Good. Although that's going to screw me with some of my PHP 4 code that's still in the code base.
And then
Not my code. We've brought in libraries and that were abandoned that I know still use the @ operator.
Oh, so it's a fun little mental exercise to go, oh, I forgot we used to do things like that, or like, oh, I remember writing my first page 20 years ago, and it had a constructor that was just named after the class.
And if you want to see code like that, go back to the beginning of the YouTube video and you can see some.
So what are y'all's thoughts then, because we've had this discussion in the past, and we have some news queued up about this, about adopting frameworks who are on like an aggressive release cycle. I mean, do you think, like for me, I know if I'm keeping my Laravel applications current, I know, or I don't know, but I have a fairly good baseline that I can keep moving forward with PHP. Like, I'm kind of dependent on my framework to make sure I stay in line with the compatibility of PHP.
If I were starting fresh with new code, with a big application, I don't know that if I would go Laravel simply because of the way releases happen.
Well, it doesn't have to be Laravel specific. I'm just saying frameworks in general. Because I know there's always the argument of frameworks just in general aren't good for people.
Right. I want a framework that will help keep me in line as far as staying up to date. So I don't want one that's trying to stay backwards compatible, way back in the day. I want one that does aggressive bug or security updates. So if there's a security flaw, I want to be told right away, and I want that to come through.
Mm-hmm.
But for your general updates, code enhancements, releases, having a daily release, even if it's just a minor point update, it's frustrating when you come in and you've got 5 composer updates you have to do because something's changed. And it's like, but why? I'd rather be on a better release schedule.
Well, wouldn't that be the case, though, in any PHP application that uses dependencies? I mean, you don't have control over when those dependencies update.
Right, but most of them don't update that frequently.
The non-stream viewers missed me eventually completely losing it after the end of last week's episode and going on a tirade about the versioning for Laravel. All of these frameworks are really tightly coupled to best practices. So I don't have a huge deal with worrying about PHP upgrades breaking frameworks. Now, there are frameworks that are not well maintained and don't use best practices, like WordPress. And the thing we were talking about last week is like, yeah, what do all these WordPress users do when everything breaks because you updated to PHP 8? And it's like, well, sorry, it's WordPress. Like, it's got the bad reputation for a reason. Now, its reputation might be worse than it actually deserves, but in my experience, it's not by much.
Okay, so one of the things that happened I don't know if it happened this week or last week or when it happened, but Laravel announced a new release cycle.
Yesterday.
So, was that yesterday? God, it feels so long ago. They released a new, so instead of doing a new major every 6 months, which I don't think anybody on this podcast was really a fan of, now they've pushed it out to a new major every year. I'm still kind of on the fence. So we brought this up in the PHPUgly Discord, and we got some back and forth on it. I'm still not a fan of any scheduled major release. Like, major releases should just be the building up of feature, backwards breaking changes that say, okay, we have to do a major release. This is what we're going to do. We're going to make some architectural changes, blah, blah, blah. But there was some feedback in the PHPUgly Discord of, no, we like the scheduled major release because, we know we can plan certain, efforts around it. So we know coming September, we're going to have a focus on the next release of Laravel.
But you normally have that anyway. It's not necessarily scheduled every 6 months or every year, but when a new major release is coming out, it's known ahead of time. It's not like,
right,
oh, by the way, tomorrow we're going from 9 to 10. It's
Well, and it's getting
hey,
reviewed by people.
version 10 is coming out.
It's getting release candidates, and it's getting edge case users who are trying this stuff out and saying, "Hey, this is where it breaks." I mean, there hasn't been a release of Laravel, a minor release of Laravel, without a tweak patch a couple days later, and sometimes full-on rollbacks of functionality. And the big reason, the big feature in 9 was parallel testing. And Taylor said in order to do this 12-month plan instead of the 6-month plan, they just backported parallel testing to 8. Well, then why were you pushing 9 then? Why was 9 going to be a required upgrade if you could backport this functionality in a non-breaking way to the existing deployment? It's
wanting to have a feature to cause a major upgrade, even though it's not required.
Right.
Right.
And there are backwards compatible breaking changes in these minor releases that come out. So I don't see why having a schedule for 8 or 9 or 10 even matters.
It's not Laravel specific, just to be clear.
Yeah. I can't think of the last backwards breaking change Laravel had in one of their minor releases. That might not have been a security patch. I mean, security releases kind of get a pass on that, right? Because if the vulnerability is the backwards breaking change, then they have to address it.
I would say that the Tailwind issue, though not necessarily a backward compatible breaking issue, was introduced in a minor version.
Tailwind issue. I don't remember the Tailwind
switching
issue.
from I'm sorry, not Tailwind.
I was gonna say
switching the CSS or JS framework for the authentication system over.
Well, the
Jetstream.
CSS, are you talking? What?
Jetstream.
Okay.
That was introduced in a minor release, and it caused a huge number of problems for people.
No, okay. I think it caused a problem for people because they felt like they were being forced into it. But if your application didn't have it, it didn't install itself. It just, people didn't want it. They wanted other options. There was a lot of questions around the implementation. So Taylor then, restructured it a little bit. But I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just saying, in general, security patches get passes for backwards breaking changes. I don't know. I mean, this kind of comes back to bring it back full circle here is why I've supported frameworks for so long. Is I do feel like, as long as you're in a current framework and one that's being maintained, that it does help you stay current with your stack from end to end. Because kind of, like you said, Thomas, unless you adopt something like WordPress that prided itself on being backwards compatible for so long. Frameworks like Symphony, frameworks like Laravel, they're pretty forward moving. So this has always been one of my arguments with frameworks. It's not it's not a silver bullet to fix everything, but it does help establish some structure. It does help establish some best practices, and it does help establish a method to help you keep current.
There are pros and cons, and it's also about your team. Having a team that cares enough to stay on top of current releases of PHP.
Well, and communicate.
That too. I mean, my history when I first moved to California, I was on a PHP 4 code base, and they were perfectly happy staying there until I pushed and pushed and pushed. I'm like, no, we need to get to 5, and made it happen. Now they see the light of day because they have even more developers on the team that care deeply about the community and PHP in general, and want to use some of the latest features of the language. So there's a push to stay up to date And at the same time, management now realizes, no, we've got to stay up to date. We're not going to fall that far behind again.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. There's pros and cons, and a framework can help you in that. I take issue with Laravel's specific implementation where it seems like every day I wake up and it's, hey, you need to go update this dependency.
But that's your choice, right? I mean, you could make the decision. We're only doing Laravel updates once a month, or whatever that might be.
Well,
is that a option within that GitHub bot that checks your composer dependencies? That I don't know.
I don't know that for sure. To be honest.
Doing that would have bit you twice this month, because there were 2 major security issues this month.
Well, again, major security issues are a different topic. You don't skip major security patches, right? That's not a Laravel thing. That's what I'm saying.
This is the problem with communication, is that we're not getting notification that these are security issues. The fact that I'm reading the Laravel blog every single day, I get to see when a security patch is issued a couple hours maybe after it's issued. But the last security bug before the newest one was not described in any way that you could understand what was going on or what the downstream effects of it could have been. And the latest one, I've, again, barely seen anything about it. I haven't seen anything from people saying, hey, by the way, this, if you follow best practices, this wouldn't be an issue, but we understand that it is an issue for people who don't have best practices or...
Right. So you're talking about the debug mode remote code execution
yeah.
one? Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah. Yeah. And we actually had a discussion about this in the Diego Dev Slack. So the big gotcha with this latest security bug is that you have debug enabled on the server. Now you might... Well...
no, not in production. Not server. Yeah, in production is one...
On a pub... So that was the question, right? It's like, who does that? Who enables debug on production? The thing is we have dev, we have staging, we have POCs, and occasionally the developers will be like, hey, something's happening on dev, I can't figure it out. Can you enable debug? And we would go, we'd go do that. So there is a vector, surface vector for attacks. It is a thing. So when
if you have those servers publicly accessible, you're saying,
right?
Well,
right.
I would go further than that.
When I first read this,
I would say, if someone can get into your network and there's a Laravel instance running on your network, then they have arbitrary code execution on that machine. So
I think you have bigger problems if somebody penetrates a private network.
But penetrating a private network is the first layer of security. The other layers of security are that just because you got in my network doesn't mean that you can own my Linux machine or my Windows machine.
Sure. There was a pseudo exploit released this week as well, where people could any person who's on the server could do a permission update to make them
absolutely
pseudo.
But that issue still required that you have login access to the machine you want to attack. In this case, your development machine is broadcasting essentially an open terminal to anyone else on the network. And that's...
I think that's less of a concern as, again, having it enabled in what you would think is a non-production server, but still on the public internet. You're like, oh yeah, that's a test URL. You forget that, oh fuck, we enabled debug. So yeah, that was because when I first read it, I'm like, I'm not worried about this. We never enable debug on any of our production servers. And then I started thinking more about it. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Actually, we do enable it on dev occasionally when developers ask.
Yeah, to be fair, you didn't make much of it, and then I told you the sky was falling, and you started thinking about it more. That's my role, is I'm the alarmist.
Yeah.
They call it doom and gloom for a reason.
That's why. But I think I cut you off. I think you were talking about something else, Thomas, with the patching cycle. Oh, so you're saying that to do the security patches, you would automatically be forced to apply what other patches were presented before.
That's one issue. The other issue is I can pull up these remote code execution and these big errors that have come up, and I can't tell you what the CVE is for these security issues.
It's weird you say that, because I was seeing the CVE for the last Laravel one, but this debug one I haven't seen one for.
Well, going back to the other question you asked, where you said only do the Laravel upgrades once a month, is then you miss the visibility into those security ones, where if Laravel only did once a month, again, not necessarily just Laravel, but anything, if they had a release cycle of once a month, but something popped up on my GitHub account saying, hey, there's a new upgrade for this, and it's not on a normal release schedule, I can say, oh, that must be a security one, do some research.
Yeah, and this is another area where Symphony gets it right. The Symphony Framework is a collection of Symphony components in your composer.json. So when a package in Symphony doesn't need to be updated, it won't be updated for years. But when a package in Symphony all of a sudden hasn't been updated in years and then has a 0.1 added to the end of it, you can update just that thing. And Laravel is laid out in the same way, where all of the components,
I was about to say that.
all of the components are part of the Illuminate repository. But then they're built into the framework package, and all you get is the framework as a whole. You don't get components of the framework. I think if you went with Laravel Lumen, you could do that kind of component-based thing. And I think if I were to do an enterprise project again with Laravel, I would do a Lumen project and go package by package.
We still have the issue of, but so many of their packages all update at the same time.
Yeah, so that is the issue.
At least it seems that way.
There are,
you get one, you get them all.
There are, if you look at the Illuminate history, there are plenty of those packages that haven't been updated but have been tagged for 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4. There's no change. They've just been, another tag has been slapped on it. And that's unnecessary. When I think of semantic versioning for Laravel, I don't think about the framework, I think about the components. If you haven't changed something, don't upgrade its version number.
All right. I think we've talked this one to death.
Killed it.
I feel so. I feel like it.
Hey,
Good.
Boy, we're good at this. Friend of the show, Yishu, sent me a message this morning, and I was super excited about it. GitHub changed GitHub Actions to work in private repositories finally. in private repositories that work off a forking model.
All right.
Their original assumption was, if you have a private repository, you're working off a branching model. You have 10, 20, 1,000 developers in the same repo, creating a branch and then opening pull requests based on that, and their actions work fine. There's a lot of private repos, ours included, that work off a forking model. Every developer takes their own fork. We don't care what they do with their branches. They open a pull request when they feel a branch is ready to be merged in. Up until recently, GitHub Actions just didn't work. Now they made some enhancements. They've added a bunch of read-only tokens that will work within the system, because that was part of the issue, was getting escalation into sensitive data. That's been all cleared up. So I'm excited to give this a shot.
I say mine. I'm very happy about this.
So thank you, Gishu, for pointing that out to me. I appreciate it.
Gishu's been all over the place lately, man. I tell you. So again, if you're listening to the audio podcast, you missed a fairly large section of the show last week. We'd edited that thing down. It was still probably our longest audio podcast, but I ended up calling somebody out last week on the show, and I felt bad about it. But I'll bring up the topic again because there's relevance in it. I brought up the topic of follow backs in Twitter, right? And how I felt. It's like why are you all godding me already? So my whole thing is the statement I had made is I will never have more followers than I follow, because I don't follow everybody. Like, if you look like you're a bot, or if I only speak English and I speak English poorly, so if you don't tweet in English, I might not follow you back. But if you're clearly like a PHP person or a developer or an open source person, and your stream isn't littered with a bunch of MAGA weirdness or something like that, chances are I'll follow you back. It's like a polite thing. It's like, I appreciate your follow. Here's a follow back. Now, what I wasn't clear on and what was brought up is that I don't really use my main Twitter stream to read my tweets. I use TweetDeck, and I have lists. So I look at all my list, and I'll glance at my main stream just to see what's in there, because I do want to make sure that I give it a look. But that was something that was brought up. Is a couple of articles were forwarded to me about how, hey, the algorithm for Twitter doesn't work for me. I just use lists. I'm like, okay, well, if you just use lists and you don't use the mainstream, then what does it matter if you follow people back? But anyways, what I'm getting to is I was having a conversation with a particular person. I'm not going to call people out again. And one of the things I had said was, you never know when the fact that you're following somebody back might be inspirational to them. The first thing I said is that when people look at my profile or look at anybody's profile and wonder how good they are about what they're talking about, or how, what sort of reputation they have for the topics they talk about, they look at their followers and they see how many followers they have. So if somebody's trying to get a reputation for being a PHP developer or something, and he's not getting follow backs because he's following a bunch of people who don't believe in follow backs, then you're not giving the guy the potential reputation that he might need. That it used to be called clout.
I'll give you that.
Okay. I think you'll give me the next thing too, the inspiration part. And I swear to God, I did not plan this. I don't know if somebody listened to the podcast. I don't think I talked about it on the podcast last week. And I know I didn't release it in the audio podcast because I had cut that whole section out. But my other thing was inspiration. It's like, you never know when following somebody might be inspirational to them. And no sooner do I say that, like, I swear to God, it was like the next day. Somebody had followed me. I just did my typical, who followed me? Okay, let me see, blah, blah, blah. And I followed them back, and they say that exact same thing. They were so excited about the fact that I followed them back, that they listened to this podcast, that they were very excited. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, what did that cost me? It cost me nothing. So I just wanted, I went on that rant just to let you guys know I was right.
And I never said you're wrong. I often follow people back too. I'm terrible about staying on top of my Twitter feed, so I may not see what they're writing. But at the same time, I do look at people that have more. They have more followers than they're following, or vice versa, where it just seems scammy.
What, the ratio issue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I get it. I mean, I get the philosophy behind the list. Like I say, I use the list. But if you're a list person, it doesn't matter that you're following people. You're not looking at that stream.
I keep forgetting that TweetDeck is now built into. It's part of Twitter, isn't it?
Yeah, Twitter owns it. I think the actual
it's
URL now is
twitter.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
I keep forgetting that.
I say that to tell you guys, if somebody follows you, give them a follow back. Just Just say hi to him.
I'm gonna unfollow you.
It's like,
If I follow you back, you should feel very privileged and honored, and I expect something in return.
whatever.
Last week we discussed a minor change, I guess, that the PHP documentation got moved to GitHub, and it didn't take long, but now people are actually going into the documentation and fixing things.
Mm-hmm. Andreas, it was one of the main drivers behind that. I got to actually speak to him before they had finished the migration. So he was the one that had proposed it to PHP internals and kind of led the charge on it. But he moved stuff over. The English version had been on GitHub for a while, and it'd been in this weird state where if you submitted a PR on GitHub, they had to do some backporting, and all these weird things happen. But now I guess across the board, all the documentation now is on GitHub, and the whole workflow is handled through GitHub. It's a great thing.
Yeah, so one of the big things on Reddit today this week was the proper error handling for MySQL connections has been recommended instead of the 4.7 version. Actually, I guess this would be the 5.3 version because this is MySQLi. But the recommended way of doing things is the big place where people are making edits and saying, "Listen, we do it this way now. This is really old, and we don't do that anymore." So I guess for a couple decades, if my SQLi connect error then die with the error number was the recommended method.
Dude, I totally remember doing that. I remember how great it was when Dreamweaver would do it for me. It's like, oh, look at that. Dreamweaver made the connection for me. I don't even have to worry about this. This is so easy.
So the recommended way is no longer dying. It is throwing or catching the exception, the PDO exception, and handling the exception instead of just dying and saying, I don't know.
Why even catch it? Just throw it and let something else show the error message.
Yeah. So I when they moved to GitHub, I didn't think it was that big a deal, but I think the accessibility of having it on GitHub is going to be really nice for maintaining it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think this sort of thing is a perfect example of some of this because it's this documentation that gets translated to these like textbooks that colleges are using, and it's like the moment they print them, they're out of date because they're using these old approaches. It's crazy.
What I wish they would do is also moderate the comments that are left on the PHP documentation.
With the 30-year-old comments that.
Yeah, you go in there and there's like these code snippets, and then you look at it and you're like, ugh, and then okay, this is from 2008. Yeah. It's like, okay, it makes sense why it's written that way, but let's update it here.
And if you look at how Stack Overflow handled this issue, you can edit your comment or you can sub-comment on it. The way PHP.net handles it is just a list of all the comments in order. And so when something is incorrect, then the next guy will say, "Oh, you actually should do it this way. That other way, I'll throw exceptions here." And the next guy says, "Oh, okay, yeah. Here's the new version." So now there's two versions on the comments.
Right. And granted, the newest one's up top, but it's still.
I don't think it is. I think it actually threads the other way. Now that you say that, I don't remember. I would have to look at one.
Yeah, I think newest is up top, but I could be wrong.
I can tell you right now. It appears to be a weighted list on upvotes and downvotes.
Oh, there is
even better
upvote and downvote now. Yeah, that is better.
That is not better.
Yeah, I was being
that
sarcastic.
Is significantly worse.
Why would that be significantly worse? You just downvote the bad stuff.
Array shift has hundreds of comments on it. and the highest upvoted one is 12 years ago. And the next one is 7 years
I'm
ago.
looking at your MySQL one now. And MySQL one is 6 years ago, the highest. And yeah, and then there are votes as recent as 3 years ago, which are lower in the list. Yeah, I don't know how to read this. Yeah, that's troubling.
Well,
yeah.
there's one from 15 years ago that says this function will save the key values of an array, and it will work in lower versions of PHP, submitted 15 years ago. And it returns what is now the array keys method, which has existed since 5.1.
There you go. There you go, Thomas. You want to be part of PHP internals? Come up with a better commenting system for the website and submit it.
So
I don't.
you brought this up saying something about Reddit, and something else happened on Reddit very recently. We're talking about GameStop. GameStop. Eric wanted to know more about this. And
yeah, I don't understand it.
All the buzz around GameStop the last couple of days, I've been very lost on it. And so I started doing a little research and saw Thomas posted on Facebook, which helped me a lot. But it goes back to Reddit.
It does go back to Reddit. The first thing you have to understand is what shorting a stock means. It's the easiest description is betting on the price going down. But the description that makes more sense is borrowing something whose value you believe will go down with the promise of returning it at the end of a certain span of time. So if you have a car and I want to borrow it from you, you'll charge me some fee to borrow it. So that fee we're going to ignore. That's how you make money on lending things. What we're going to care about is I sell the car for market value, which is $100, under the assumption that by the time I have to give your car back to you, I could buy an identical car for cheaper. So 2 weeks from now, I believe that your car will only be worth $50, but right now it's worth $100. So I borrow it from you, sell it for $100. 2 weeks from now, I buy a perfectly good copy of it for $50 and give that copy back to you. I've made $50.
Oh, okay. That's the best explanation I've ever heard of shorting a stock, and I've heard of shorting a stock lots of times.
So that's how you short a stock. The issue is that I can sell the car to you and then borrow it from you and sell it again to someone else and then borrow it from them and sell it to someone else. So I can sell the same borrowed car repeatedly in the time before I owe your initial purchase back. Okay. If the value drops $50, then I gain $50 every single time I do this. Every single time I trade the same car and then borrow it back. Eventually, though, I can owe so many people this car that they don't even make that many of this car.
All right.
So I can borrow... I can borrow 50 of your car, but there's only 20 of them in production.
Okay, so can you explain to me how this applies to what was going on with AMC Theaters and GameStop?
So what happened was all of these shorts are publicly listed. At least most of the information about them is publicly listed. And somebody on Reddit said, hey, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to be buying GameStop. And everyone was like, you're insane. GameStop is a failing business. The people who are shorting it are right to do so. And he said, yeah, but the people who are shorting it have shorted it by 140% of the available units of stock. So they had bought and sold more stock, or actually they had owed more stock to their shorts than actually existed by 140%.
Okay.
And he said, hey, I don't have enough money to buy the entire available stock of GameStop, but we as a community do. So the community got together and said, we're all going to buy GameStop. And when the shorts come due with these hedge funds that are depending on GameStop's value going down, try to rebuy the stock that they borrowed, we'll just say no. We won't sell it. And so they will have no choice but to offer us more and more money for our stocks. So what happened was Reddit, Wall Street Bets, acquired all of the available stock of GameStop. The hedge fund realized that they were in a situation that's called a short squeeze and started trying to buy the stock back. And they started putting offers on the table. I'll pay you $30 per unit. That's for them, that was already a loss of 100%. But these hedge fund guys are billionaires. So they were just trying to cut their losses at this point. But the Reddit guys were organized. They said no. So, okay, I'll offer you $40. No, I'll offer you $50. I'll offer you $60. I'll offer you $70. And then all of a sudden the market as a whole is looking at what's going on and says, wait a second, that guy's offering to buy GameStop for 300% more than it was yesterday. So the market starts getting GameStop. The people who are holding it start saying, tell you what, I'll sell it for 300. And the hedge fund guys are like, 300? I'll lose lots of money. And so fine, 350. So I like, oh my God. Now, when the price got up to 350, some people started selling. And so the price sort of like stabilized at 350. Some people were like, okay, I invested $50,000 and made $10 million in 4 days. I'm okay to cash out now. But the Wall Street Bets Reddit is notoriously insane people. So the guy who started all of this, who had bought his options, had bought $50,000 worth of options, was now valued at $40 million.
What?
A few days after he made these purchases, he had gone from a small savings account to $40 million. So that was $13 million that he had cashed out on, and $27 million that he was still holding in stocks. And this was yesterday. And so because this happened in the period of a couple days, the media just lost their minds.
I saw a lot of like little places where you can go buy stocks from said, hey, you can't buy in this one right now.
Well, because they don't have them.
Yeah, I was seeing those stories.
They didn't have them. But it gets a little more. It gets a little more sinister than that. So these hedge funds, it turns out, they've never played by the rules. And the subreddit guys said, well, screw you guys. You were trying to drive this company into bankruptcy. This company that employs 50,000 people. You were trying to just burn it to the ground so you could make your money. And we're not going to stand for that. This is a moral stance for us. So this hedge fund came out and they're like, listen, we need to stop trading on the market. We need to reevaluate our positions. We need the stock market to hold this stock. And the Reddit guys were like, yeah, you can't just ask the market to put holds on stocks like that. And the market was like, yeah, they can. They have permission to. And people started losing their minds. And that's when AOC got involved. That's when fights broke out on CNN Money and Fox Money. Like, there's people who are saying, listen, these hedge funds, which created the short crisis of 2008, these drove people out of their homes and destroyed lives, they got a bailout for doing that. So they made billions and then got a bailout for doing that. And now they're getting bailed out for gambling with people's lives again in 2021. They're getting helped by the market, and they're asking Congress for money for the bad position that they put themselves in when they bought 140% of the stock, assuming that it was going to dive to bankruptcy, doing everything they could to destroy a company that was already doing poorly and putting people on the street. And so the market...
I just want to make sure I got this right. Me as a private investor, know nothing about the market. I get in, I buy Gamestop or any other stock for $10. The hedge fund takes that and they end up selling it to somebody else for $10. When it drops to $1, that person is out $9, and they give me back my stock that's now worth only $1.
And they have the power.
Makes way more sense now.
And they have the power to create this dip in the market. They have the power to drive down valuations because they can write to newspapers and say, look how much this is being shorted and look how much money they're losing. It's getting worse and worse every day. And then the news goes out, people dump the stock, they buy the stock for cheap. It's hideous.
So when you say borrow, it's not like, with your car example, you were asking Eric to borrow
I was
his
paying
car.
him to borrow his car. I was paying him, let's say, $10 to borrow his car, knowing that a month later he would get the car back and it'd be the exact same car.
So is that the same thing on the stock market where they're paying somebody to borrow their
Right, so
stock?
they're paying somebody who believes the opposite of the short, or who believes that the stock isn't going to dip, it's going to be stable, or it's going to go up. So they're going to either come out of it with the same value of the stock next month, plus the commission fee for borrowing it, or the commission fee plus the higher value stock. So it's a...
Yeah, Shutter in the chat says this is the first kind of person who kind of became known for this was from that movie, The Big Short, Michael Burry, who did it, as you were saying, during the housing bubble, when he noticed that.
And they're the protagonists in that movie, but they're not the good guys. They're just the protagonists. Mm-hmm. They're very much bad guys. And it's now being noticed by government officials that these practices are hypocritical. They're saying when we lose money, it's not fair, but when we make money off the backs of Americans, it's just the way the market works. It's just free trade. Here's where it becomes sinister. Citadel is the hedge fund that owns Melvin Capital Management. Melvin Capital Management is one of the short sellers that's going to lose billions of dollars because of what's happening. Citadel owns Robinhood.
That's why I got the email.
Citadel said, we're bleeding money. Stop all purchases of GameStop on the Robinhood app. Don't let people keep buying it because we need to buy it to cover our fund. So the app that people were using to trade their stocks stopped allowing them to trade their stocks, drove the price down, and forced them to sell only to the company that had shorted the stock in the first place.
Wow.
And that's where it's questionable legality. Is that okay? Morally, not okay at all. But legally, it's a real dangerous territory. Now, you might be wondering, why would they put themselves in such a precarious legal position? The current estimate for losses by hedge funds due to the activity of a couple thousand Redditors is $70 billion.
Wow. See, this is the thing. All right, I'm sorry. Whenever somebody says Bitcoin will never work, it's not a real thing, how does this work? Like, how does the stock market work? Like, how is this a thing? You can't tell me Bitcoin can't be a thing. This is a thing. You know, it's I don't get it. This is amazing to me. Amazing.
Well, and this is the biggest complaint from people right now, is that this is how it's supposed to work for the hedge funds and the big money managers. And the fact that what they're called retail investors, the you and I investors, figured it out is what's upsetting the hedge funds, and they want to change the rules so that only they can do this. So they're writing to Congress, and they're trying to get bailouts, and they're trying to get laws changed that kick retail investors off the market. And they're trying to basically take capitalism and say, well, capitalism for us only, not for you guys. And they have a lot of power, as you can imagine, because they have a lot of money. But what they did...
Robin Hood's emails make it sound like they're under legal obligation to do this kind of thing.
They got called out on CNN about that.
Yeah.
As a brokerage firm,
repeatedly.
we have many financial requirements.
But what they did is they over-leveraged their position. They bought 140% of a stock. What they did was gambling on the worst level on the livelihoods of 50,000 employees. So...
Not only that, all the people that own that stock too, right? The ones they're borrowing the stock from to resell.
They're intending to screw people.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you for that education. Like I said, that's the best explanation of a short I've ever heard.
Days.
We want to thank you for listening to Stock Market Ugly.
It took me days to figure out how any of this worked, and it gets, if you get into the Wall Street Bets Reddit is closed right now. You can't get into it, but there were discussions on artificial longs, which is artificially creating more stock than actually exists by trading within a cube of companies. I had to download the Big Short again so that I can watch it and try to suck as much out of it as I can, because they do a lot of this in that movie. But the last time this happened was Porsche. Porsche did this with VW. A bunch of people thought VW was going under in 2008, and Porsche secretly bought all the VW stock and then wouldn't sell it to the shorters. And the same thing happened, but because Porsche was a big company, they ended up negotiating a value, but it cranked up the VW stock by thousands of percents.
All right, let's move on from that real quick. Last week we left on a cliffhanger. We promised our viewers porn.
I certainly did not.
Oh, maybe I misheard that. That's what I remember from last week. What the...
Yeah, Pornhub.
You had a story you wanted to share.
Pornhub is accepting XRP, BNB, USDC, and Dogecoin cryptocurrencies now, which appears to...
I knew there was a reason I held on to those coins.
Well, you say that, but it appears to have massively boosted the value of Dogecoin, which is now
Really?
At $1 a coin. And
I can actually buy a coin of something. I've never actually owned a full Bitcoin. It would be fun to actually own a
I
coin
don't
of
know
something.
how much Doge I have, but it's in the tens of thousands.
What?
Because it was a really easy coin to mine. It had a massive pool, so you could get 100 an hour or something out of it, but it was valued at like half a cent.
So you have a bunch of these
Somewhere.
coins?
on somebody else's mining pool server that I ran 15 years ago or whatever it was.
Jeez.
So you don't know where it's at.
No idea.
No porn for you.
This is one of those things I decided a while back, is I'm not going to let the increasing value of cryptocurrencies make me look back and say, I could be a billionaire now, because I'm not.
It does that to me a little bit, because just prior to moving out to San Diego, and then shortly after, when I was still doing a lot of work for bulletball.com, I was trying to push him to accept Bitcoin as a payment option, because they made it super easy to get the current US dollar value of Bitcoin. I mean, you can still do that with Coinbase or a lot of those payment systems. So you're basically taking the current US dollar value in Bitcoin, and then you can either immediately convert it to US dollars so you don't lose any money. It's just a payment option at that point. Or you can do a percentage. So
Yeah.
I want to keep 10% of the Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in cryptocurrency and get the rest out. So if you have a profit margin of 10% and you keep 5% in cryptocurrency, and it would have matured the way that Bitcoin has.
God, can you imagine
That
the
would've
bowling
been
ball you could buy with that?
game.
Solid gold.
Gishu in chat said porn ugly podcast. No Gishu, but funny enough, ugly porn is a category you can look up apparently.
Oh.
What? What? I'm the bad guy for saying that? You talk to porn
Yes.
all the time.
Finally.
Finally, good God.
How far into it are we?
What?
Boy. Finally,
Plenty far.
Flash lost support, and a bunch of people,
Years ago?
bunch of people didn't realize that their Flash applications that they were using, their custom Flash applications on their legacy systems, would just stop working. Which, to be fair, I didn't know this either. That compiled Flash applications have an expiration date in them, and that expiration date was last week.
Oh, really?
Really?
That's
How does that even work?
so. That's what happened. Is that Adobe started releasing versions of their Flash compiler that said, "Hey, after this date, fuck them."
You thought you had trouble keeping your Laravel app up
Right.
to date.
I thought this whole Flash situation was an end of support. Browsers were getting rid of it or removing the Flash executable. No, it turns out that the application themselves have a self-destruct.
That is
crazy.
ridiculous. I did not
So-
know that.
This Chinese railway was using it to manage a lot of their scheduling stuff, and the day came and passed, and all of a sudden the application just wouldn't launch.
You can hire Diego Dev to rebuild your application if you need. Just throwing that out there.
Well, they needed it up the next day. They needed it back up quick, so they went online.
I could do it in 12 hours with LiveWire. I'm telling you.
They went online and found a pirated version of Flash that had the self-destruct date hacked, so that products produced with it wouldn't self-destruct anymore. They recompiled the application, and voila, it works again. So piracy saves the day.
Oh boy, I'm not sure that was the
That
message,
was
but
100% the message.
That is that is a crazy thing. Like, if I have PHP installed locally and I have something running, I would expect it to keep running, even though PHP, even if I had PHP 3 still on my machine, I don't care if it's end of life. It shouldn't just self-destruct. That's crazy that
I would agree.
Was the case.
This also hit a. Oh, I'm on the wrong Discord there. This also hit I think an African. Yes, the South African government ended up releasing their own browser to allow execution of these self-destructed applications.
Yeah.
Really?
You ask who still uses Flash in production, and while I understand when you think about it from a web application standpoint, that's different. But if you have something that you wrote to run locally, only for your internal use, that there's no reason to update it. I'm not using it in a browser. I'm using it locally on my machine. I don't care that it's end of life. It's been serving me well. I'm running my business or whatever I'm doing with that application. Putting it not being supported in the browser anymore doesn't affect me personally, so I'm not even thinking I need to upgrade it.
Oh, you talk about end of life stuff. This kind of applies. I know we're running along. I'll try to be quick, but I want to bring it back to PHP. I totally lost my shit today. So we were talking over the last couple of days of our last couple of weeks of how we've been playing around with Code With Me, which allowed you to do pair programming with people through PHPStorm.
Debug works in Code With Me, by the way.
Doing it. Oh yeah, we discovered that today. We were Thomas was pair programming with me through Code With Me. When John and I were doing some experimenting, we both had a misunderstanding. We thought that other people like Thomas were getting their remote sessions in their PHPStorm, and it wasn't launching another client. So at one point, I thought to myself, I'm like, well, maybe it's the EAP version, which is the early access program version, which is kind of a cool thing that JetBrains does. You can do EAP and basically get PHPStorm for free as long as it's an EAP. And then when it goes to production, then you either have to pay for it or you're just stuck with what you have. But I had installed the EAP program version on my system to see if that corrected the Code With Me situation. So to put that to bed, it didn't. And it turns out Thomas was getting the other client. I assume the other person we were thinking of was also getting the other client. So it seems like with Code With Me, when you share and you're not driving, you're the person you're doing the pairing, your version comes up in this other client, this separate client for whatever reason.
Lightweight JetBrains client.
Yeah, but I got my theme though.
Yeah.
Right. That's another situation. I'm not even talking about that. But the point being, I'd forgotten that I was on the EAP. Well, I didn't forget. I just didn't care. I was just whatever. I was running like 2021.1 or something like that, and so that got updated this morning. And like I said, I've been doing a bunch of Livewire coding, which a Livewire component is basically like a Laravel Blade component on steroids. And if you're not familiar with what Laravel Blade components are,
how did he bring it back to Livewire?
It's a feature within. It's a feature within Laravel where you can have these components, so these Blade templates that run code for you. That's another thing. Anyways, all these components, the Livewire components, the Blade components, all of them were throwing up errors on me. They wouldn't autocomplete anymore, and I lost my shit. And I'm like, oh my god, what is happening? Like all of a sudden, I couldn't get any of my Livewire components to autocomplete. The IDE kept giving it as errors, and then I remember I'm like, oh crap, I'm on the EAP. I need to revert back. And so instead of opening up a bug with JetBrains, I just rolled back to a stable version of PHPStorm, and I was fine.
Well, that's the whole point of EAP is you find those bugs and you can report them.
Yeah, I'm busy, man. I got things to get done. I'm paying them for their product.
You're the guy. You're the guy who's causing this.
Well, to be fair, that's probably in a plugin, not in JetBrains itself, so they wouldn't have fixed it.
I think you're exactly right. I think it was a plugin that just didn't work in that version of PHPStorm yet. So yeah, you talk about like losing like functionality. That's when I realized I'm like I am too like dependent on these features of PHPStorm. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it was like I couldn't believe how much it slowed me down, because at first I was like, okay, whatever. I know this component's there. I'm just going to keep pushing through, and yeah, I couldn't.
I've been having that problem not with the EAP version, but just recently, all of a sudden, PHPStorm, I've had to invalidate caches and restart. Last week was
I had
really
that
bad,
happen to me too.
where I had to do it. It hasn't happened this week.
How do you do
that? That was like Monday.
So, under File, there's invalidate and restart, invalidate caches and restart.
Mm-hmm.
What I was seeing was a lot of my classes that have been in the product for years. I mean, it's not new code. Just all of a sudden wouldn't autocomplete, or you would say import the file and it couldn't find the file. I'm like, but the file's right there. Like, what do you mean you can't find it? It's there.
Well, that's weird. That's how you fix that problem? I've had that issue in the past.
Yeah. Invalidate caches and restart is a pain in the ass because it does restart, but then you got to wait for it to index your application. And if it's a large application, it takes forever. But that's fixed it every time. And last week or the week before, I swear it was like every day I had to restart. And it hasn't happened since. So I don't know what was going on.
All right. Well, I think that's good, man. What do you guys think? We good? We're gonna think our Patreons.
Look at that.
We have new Patreons.
We have new patrons on Patreon.
Who did you keep in any particular order there? Mike, Kendrick, Blaze. Are those the new? Mike Page Dev. I know that. Why do I know that one?
I don't
know. I know that one. Mike Page Dev.
Buttery Crumpet's at the top because I don't want to get yelled at again.
Well, he's always at the top. Yes, he's earned that spot. Mike Page Dev. I know Mike. Mike, you're a Patreon supporter, buddy. Thank you. Mike Page Dev on Twitter. Yes, I do know this person. So yes, we have some new Patreons, and at some point I will have to get little keychains out to you guys, little baby lanyards out to you, as Thomas says. So yeah, that's
we need
thing.
shirts. We need shirts.
Okay,
now.
Is that it? We need something else.
Also,
we really do. I think we could come up with some funny shirts.
I need shirts. I'm still wearing this thing.
That's like the throwback Diego.
That's
shirt
just my
there.
Thursday shirt.
I think we could come up with some funny PHP inspired ugly T-shirts. We should put our
hit us
head
up in
together.
Discord with some ideas, peoples.
Yeah, hit us up. I'll reach out to my artist buddy and see if we can get him to commission some pieces for us. And I hope you guys have been appreciating my new YouTube thumbnails. I've been spending some time. We had baby goats last week. I
loved it.
I was very happy with that one.
Yes.
So yeah, we're trying to make little quality of life improvements for people who care to listen to us.
By 300 episodes, we'll be PHP average.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be the PHP. Yeah. You'd hook up, if after a few drinks, late at night, bar's empty.
We've got a whopping 3 people watching, and it's probably the 3 people on the show.
All right, thank you very much. I guess next week we'll go into PHP statistics. I do have some of that stuff for us.
They look
and
good.
If you want to get involved in that, JetBrains released their developer study. It is a lengthy form to fill out, but it is worth it because we get some great numbers out of it at the end. And if you have suggestions for stuff you think that we should cover, tweet it to us at PHPUgly on Twitter. Thank you.
Or hit us up in our Discord.
Yes.
That's where I get all my Twilio. No, not what's it called?
What is our Discord URL?
It would be discord.php.com.
Very close.
PHPUgly.com. Discord.phpugly.com.
Still working on getting that php.com domain.
That shouldn't be that hard. Yeah. I was just thinking how we didn't mention Argus this whole show, and I feel pretty bad.
Brought to you by Argus.
Next week will be a heavy Argus. Brought to you by Argus. All right, that's it. Episode 221 in the books. Thanks for hanging out with us.
We'll talk more Twilio next week since you brought it up, because I've been doing a lot of work with that this week. Go for it.
I'm
Close
Eric.
us out. I'm John.
I'm 40. Keep it ugly.
Happy birthday.
Keep it
ugly.
Happy birthday, Thomas.
Oh, I don't care in the slightest bit. I swear to God.
I can't believe you're only 40. You look like 45, 50. I was actually impressed.
That
He's
is the
showing us
wrong
there.
thing.
Oh. Yep.
One, two, coming off the top, y'all know how we do. Listen, I'ma drop a freestyle you can cherish. I'ma send a shout out to the host named Eric. Yo, he's never on some average shit. You know Eric, he stays loud and passionate. I'm about to break it down for y'all with the clever song. Yo, shout the host named Thomas, cause he's never wrong. Yo, shout to John, you know that he's smart and quiet, unlike my freestyles, which cause a riot. I'm about to do it like this, cause the people love me. Shouts out to PHP the Ugly. It's called ugly cause it's not professional, but I'm about to come through and bless it with style. So let's do it when I'm spitting, I perfume the room. Yo, the segment of the show is called Doom and Gloom. That came from Thomas. Yeah, can nobody go beyond this? I get the mic and then I'm about to keep it like a promise. Yeah, and y'all know we fill them up with anguish. We talking about the PHP, the programming language. About to break it down, no exaggeration. What do y'all do for a living? Web applications. Okay, I can dig it. My words spray tight. They getting together on the Thursday nights. Yeah, when it comes to rhyming, you can call me the new dude. I spew true lyrics while y'all broadcast on YouTube. So let's get it. You know my lyrics are major. All up in the comments, they got plenty of haters, but they doing what they doing. Keep it ugly. We ending every show with the saying it's lovely. Let's go. Hey, shout out to y'all. Peace to the whole squad, man. Hope your channel is doing real well on YouTube. Hope you
As a buttery. Thanks, Shutter. Thanks. Who else? That's Gishu. Was it you? Gishu? Yeah.
Yep, Gishu was hanging with us.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Let's go.
Oh,
I'll be right back.
I got color changing
Yeah.
lights for my setup.
look at that.
Let me.
Your quality. I can make my I got my little LEDs back there. I can change colors. I don't. But... Hey, touch your stuff. Yeah. So.
I'm thinking about.
So yeah.
I'm thinking about doing like an if this
Okay.
then that thing, where my office light changes colors depending on if I have emails or tweets or whatever.
That's what you can do. Yeah. Do it so that if somebody tweets you during the show, it'll flash a color. Hey. You stop it. Serious. Yeah. Yeah, you should see my Yaz, the maniac, in his little wheelchair. I'm gonna
I
get
saw
some
one of
video.
the pictures.
Probably So you saw the first day. That was Sunday. It was his first day in his wheelchair, and yeah, he just kind of feeling it through. But like this morning he just took off. I mean, we put him in. He goes. I mean, he can still walk. Like he can still stand up, but it's like this wobbly thing he does, and that's when he's like got all of his energy. Like if he's been playing or something, then it's really bad. So when he's in the wheelchair, those wheelchairs have it so that you can put the dog's feet up so that they don't, they just hang there. But he has it set up so that he can actually still use his back feet to run. So He's got little shoes. We got to put his shoes on.
We
him.
need to do that.
He is.
We need to do that for my dog. He just broke a nail again, and his foot's all wrapped up, and he wants to chew at it. And
Yeah. How do your lights? I was like, how do your lights go black? Like, is that just dark? Like, is that just on off?
Super. No.
I think that's what he's saying.
They actually suck light in.
They're black. I think that's what he's saying. He turns his light on and off. That's his black and white.
No, I love these things. My TV setup is looking slick as ever.
Easy there, buddy.
You hear the newest.
I bought a new gun.
You bought another one? What'd you get?
I bought a rifle. I bought a shotgun. I had wanted a shotgun, and I didn't buy it. So I wanted one of those like tactical shotguns. So I went and got a tactical shotgun. I was at the range today. So I don't know how it is there, but out here, I go to the range, and that's it. I leave because the store itself is packed.
Yeah.
Like there's, they have the social distancing. Everybody's in line, and it's like an hour and a half wait to get to the counter. So when I came out of the range today, there was nobody there. I'm like, wow. What? I asked the guy, I'm like, what's going on?
Ammo.
Why isn't there anybody here?
Ammo.
Huh? They didn't know. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I'm not complaining because it's been crazy here. So I walked to the they had these tactical shotguns. I'm like, hey, how much are the tactical shotguns? And so I went ahead and I got to wait. Out here in California, you have to wait 10 days before they do a background check. Doesn't matter how, like, they do a background check for every firearm you buy.
That's normal.
And well, I thought they would be good for like if you bought in the last 6 months or something.
Nope.
So it's a 10-day waiting period, even for.
It's like 3 days here.
Yeah.
But that's not even like an official waiting period. It could be hours here. You just have to wait for the report to come back. But 556 is $1 around right now.
Jesus.
I don't think 223 is much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, 223 is 80
So
cents.
I finally broke down and went to the range by myself, and
it's intimidating.
And it's very intimidating, dude. It's super intimidating. But I've been going for like the last month. I go on Thursdays, and I have like a standing reservation, and I just go every Thursday. It's my little getaway time, and it's nice. I'm comfortable enough now with my setup where, I'm enjoying the focus and the shooting and all that.
I haven't even shot my gun yet.
Well, you still got to get yours certified, right?
I don't even know if I'm going to do that.
Shit. Okay. Well, when you come back with 7 figures, we'll know.
There's not much that can go wrong with what I've built. It's like 15 parts total.
It's the couple of things that can go wrong, go very, very wrong.
Well, I've got ammo, and I've got like 90-ish rounds. Sure is pretty.
But we're reminding Buttery that we're Americans.
American.
We're Americans. I tell you, I hate going to the fucking range too, because they're all fucking MAGA Trumpers, man. I can't stand them.
Well, that's why the left is trying to take over. Like the SRA, the Socialist Rifle Association, is trying to replace the NRA, which would be fucking hilarious.
Sorry about that.
I don't know.
No worries. Well, I was hoping you were getting the puppy. I thought you were getting the puppy, you
where's
bastard.
the puppy?
Oh. I don't bring the puppy in my office. I don't allow puppies in the office.
Weird.
I didn't allow it in the office when we had one in Poway. I don't allow them in my office here.
Hey, they're in the office all the time in Poway.
Well, not by my choice.
All right.
No, my wife wrote to me 30 minutes ago saying, "Hey, you done recording?" No, not yet. She goes, "All right, well, let me know when you wrap up." She's out there with the dog. the dog on her lap, and she had to pee.
Oh yeah, she's screwed.
It's a dog. Just put it down. It'll get back on your lap.
It's not that. The dog would have barked, which is right on the other side of the wall, which would have interrupted our show and woke the kids up. She didn't want to interrupt the show more than the kids, but the kids being... So,
I'm getting a tattoo.
It's all good. Oh, yeah?
PHP Ugly
Diego Dev
tattoo.
logo?
PHP
Ugly
it.
logo?
I'll pay for it. You get the PHP Ugly
Absolutely
tattoo?
not.
Oh, we will definitely use the Patreon money for that.
It's along.
We probably get more Patreons.
I said it on the Slack. It's along these lines.
The Slack? Is this Slack? What are you getting here? Jesus, dude, a whole sleeve.
I'm
like
starting
that?
with the elbow, and like this area here, and then moving out from there.
Why? You
Why
might
that?
want to think about getting that body first before you get that tattoo.
Yeah, I know. It's too late now. I'm 40.
why you get that? You act like 40 is old, dude. You're a baby. You don't.
No,
you don't
my
even know,
wife
man.
acts like 40 years
Jesus.
old. She's just trained me to respond that way.
So what's inspired this one?
It's it's been the style I like for a long time. These sort of deep geometric
Gotcha.
cuts and
Yeah, these geometric
Yeah.
shapes. Yeah.
and there's some good artists around here who can handle it. So,
That's a lot
It
of work,
is.
man. That's a lot of work.
but I got some birthday money that I believe was implicitly
Well, it sounds like you got Doge coins, too.
somewhere. I don't know. It's not worth trying to find because I'll spend 10 hours looking and won't.
You just said you had $10,000 worth of Doge coins.
I
What are you
won't find
talking
it.
about? You said tens of thousands.
I won't
if I'm
find
not
it.
mistaken. If I had tens of thousands of dollars sitting out there, I would take time to look for
I'll
it.
take a glance tomorrow. I'll see. I'll invest 2 hours in finding it, but
Hell, you can invest like 100
let's
hours,
see.
500 hours, and still come out on top.
A solid year. Yeah.
Well,
Just do
I
like
wanna
an
go that- I wanna
Indiana
go that far.
Jones.
I should probably dig through my bookmarks since that's where that stuff would be.
All right. So partway in, I did grab I fired up Audacity. So if you need that, let me know.
Why would I need that? I haven't needed it.
Because of my microphone on Zencaster.
We'll fix it. It's no big deal. I wouldn't worry about it.
No, I don't.
Well, I've got it anyway, so
Yeah, appreciate it.
it's there.
I'll let you know if I find tens of thousands of dollars.
You
let
can
us
become a
know what the
Patreon.
base-
We'll create a special level for you.
Oh my god.
We'll even accept
That'd be
Doge.
awesome.
We'll figure out a way.
I would totally be that guy. I would be like the guy at a party, be like, yeah, man, I had this friend. He was a complete pothead, dope idiot, and he ended up a millionaire with these damn bitcoins.
Yeah,
I think you're.
my
idiot
brother's
there,
doing
Thomas.
well. My brother got into Ethereum pretty early.
Yeah.
So
Are
I'm
you?
so upset. I cashed all mine out, expecting to go do
The
my
paragliding. right?
paragliding thing, and fucking pandemic.
Damn it, goddamn pandemic.
Although I think I cashed out well before that, I just didn't make it out to actually do it.
I tell you what,
No.
if the next time I cash out is going to be during an election year. Election years, the freaking market goes ape shit every time. That's gonna be that's my plan. 4 years from now, I'll cash out.
Shoot, I don't even know how I would find my original mining pools.
Hey, you don't have that PHP Storm link in Trello now, right?
Which one?
I saw. You said that PHP or JetBrains released their.
Oh no,
their
I tweeted
stats.
that. No, not the stats, the survey.
Survey, right. Yeah, you have the this version stat one. I'm looking forward to talking about because I'm actually very surprised by these numbers.
So that's specifically from composer information. That's the packagist data.
Right.